Today is September 25th, 2021, and we're here at the home of Ronald Van Dress in Alliance, Ohio. I guess it's Maximo, Ohio, to discuss his time in the military service. Ronald, will you say your full name and spell your last name?
My full name is Ronald J. Van Dress, and I'll spell it for you. R-O-N-A-L-D, Ronald, J, and then capital V-A-N space, capital D-R-E-S-S, Van Dress.
Okay, thank you. And do you want to be called Ron or Ronald?
Ron's all right, or Ronald, either way.
Okay. Okay, Ronald, can we start by where you were born?
I was born in July 31st, 1925 in Navarre, Ohio.
Were you born at home or were you born in a hospital?
I was born at home.
Did you have any siblings?
Do I have any children?
No, did you have any brothers and sisters?
Oh, yes. I had 4 brothers. No, actually 3 brothers. I'm the 4th one. And 2 sisters.
Where are you at in line with your brothers and sisters?
I'm the last one.
Oh, the baby.
I'm the baby of the family.
Okay. What did your parents do for a living?
My father was a coal miner, and my mother was a housewife.
Did you think that you were going to go into coal mining when you were younger?
No.
No. You knew you weren't?
No, definitely not.
Was that hard on your dad?
Yes. He had coal miner's asthma finally, and he had to get out of the mine.
What did he do after that?
Pardon?
What did he do after that?
He joined retirement.
Did your mother do anything else except take care of her
No,
children?
she was just a mother and a housewife.
What school did you attend?
I attended St. John grade school and high school. I graduated from St. John High School.
Did you play any sports or do any other activities?
Did I what?
Play sports or do any other activities at school?
Yeah, I was played basketball and football and softball.
Were you any good?
I was pretty good.
Yeah.
I played second base.
Did you play on a team with your brothers?
No, not any of my family. I was the only one.
How much older were your brothers?
My brothers, I have a brother, John, who was quite a few years older. He was the firstborn. And then I had a brother, Carl, and a brother, Troy. And they were all younger than John, of course.
Did you go to college?
Yes.
Right after high school, or?
No, I went in the Army after high school. In fact, they wanted to draft me before I ever graduated from high school. But I definitely was in the Army after high school.
And how long before you went into the military did your brothers go?
My brothers went first.
How many years before, do you remember?
I had John, Carl, and Troy. They were all 3 of my brothers, and they were all in the Army when I was drafted.
Did you know that you were going to have to go in when you were in high school?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Was it a fear of the
I had
students,
no feeling whatsoever, one way or the other.
How was it for your mom, who already had 3 boys?
My mother was very concerned because I was the youngest brother, and she was, of course, worried about me.
Did you get letters from your brothers?
Yes, all 3 of them wrote to me when I was in the Army.
What about when they were in the Army? Did they send letters home?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Do you have any of those?
I don't think so.
So can you share what happened when you got the letter, your draft letter?
I was surprised because I was still in high school. So I was surprised I got any. And so my mother and I went to the draft board and we said I was still in school. And of course, they exempted me until I graduated from going into the Army.
How long after graduation did you have to go in?
Almost immediately. I don't remember the exact time, but it was almost immediately after I graduated from high school.
Were your brothers, any of them, home from the Army yet, or were they all still
No,
active?
they were all three in the Army.
So what was that like? Can you share what it was like that day you had to leave?
The day I had to leave for the Army,
Mm-hmm.
I hardly remember the date the day I left, but my brothers weren't there. They were already in the Army. So I was drafted and I went in from there.
Did you take a bus? Do you remember
Yes,
how you-
they had regular transportation for me, and so I used that.
Do you remember, did any of your friends go in at the same time, or was it just you by yourself?
Yeah, I had two good friends, Jim Malloy and Bob Wechter, and they both went in at the same time I did. We were all three and went to the Army at the same time.
Now, did you choose the Army, or did the Army choose you?
The Army chose me. I didn't have any choice at all.
Did you take any tests prior to going in that would
Oh
tell
yes,
where
they
you would
had
go?
a series of a battery of tests, and I took them all. Of course, I passed them because I was no dummy.
Did they tell you what job you would be assigned to beforehand?
No. I became a company clerk later on after the war was over. I became a company clerk. Just like Radar on TV.
Radar. So, do you remember the night that you got to basic training, or the day?
The day or the basic training. No, I don't really remember. It was just routine, whatever it was. I just followed what I had to do.
Well, I think, did you mention that you got there late and they said you could sleep in? And they didn't let you sleep in?
I don't remember
Okay.
that.
That might have been someone else I'm thinking of. So what was a day in basic training like?
My day in basic training, it's a routine. It's just a routine, whatever they did back then, I don't even remember.
So did you have to get up at a certain time?
Oh, yeah.
Was it earlier than normal for you?
No, it was the regular time to get up. Whatever they had in store for me that day is what I had to follow.
Was it hard to learn to march?
No, not at all. I did that very easily. It was routine.
Were there any difficulties with other service members, and did they have trouble?
When I was in basic training, I had a problem because one of the other guys stole my blanket. And we were going to be going out into the cold weather, so he wanted an extra cover, so he stole my blanket. When I wasn't in the hut at the time, and he just took it, and I came back, and here my blanket was gone. So I said, who took my blanket? You know, to the rest of the guys in the hut. And nobody would respond to it. And I said, well, I'm going to leave for about 10 or 15 minutes. When I come back, my blanket better be on my bed or there are going to be problems. And so when I came back, my blanket was back on my bed again. So then the guy that took my blanket, I still remember his name, Tompkinson was his name. And I never did care much for him. But anyway, after that, I didn't care for him at all. So anyway, I got my blanket back, and there was no problem.
And no other issues after that?
No, none.
How was the physical activity? Did you have to do an obstacle course or?
I was very good at that. I did all that I had to do, but I was very agile. I was only 19, so all my faculties were working properly, so I did all right.
How were your drill instructors?
My what?
The drill instructors, how were they?
I still didn't get that word.
Your drill instructors who were telling you what to do?
Drill instructions. I just followed the instructions, never had any problem.
They weren't mean to you and yelled at everybody?
No, I never had any problem with that. I followed all the rules and regulations and got along fine.
How was the food?
Well, I missed my mother's cooking, but I have to say the food was palatable, and I always ate my breakfast, lunch, and dinner, so no problem.
Did you have any job there, for example, like KP or laundry service or yard work?
Our laundry, like our sheets on our bed, all our laundry was done automatically once a week.
How about your own clothes?
My what?
How about your clothes?
My uniform? Clothes? Huh. What did I do with my clothes? I don't remember how I got my clothes done. I don't think I sent them out. I think I did them myself, as I recall.
Did you have barracks inspections?
Yes, regularly. Yeah, there was inspections regularly. Someone came and they even checked my feet, because you used your feet a lot in the Army because you're marching. And they always checked to make sure there was no sores there and everything was looked good to them. And I never had any problem with marching because I did that automatically. I'd never had a problem with it.
Now, did you have to go to school after basic training?
After basic training, no, I never went to any school after basic training.
So you learned all of your infantry stuff or how to handle the machine gun and that in basic training, or were you sent on to a...
No, I never had any special courses. I was chosen as a machine gunner because I was a young guy, never been married, and didn't have any children. So that's why I was chosen to operate the machine gun, because that was the most hazardous weapon, rather than the artillery or the mortars or any of the other things that you had to contend with.
And can you expand on that and share any information about those roles, what the job was for someone who was responsible for the mortar and the machine gun? What were the differences in those roles?
Well, the artillery, of course, is way back behind the lines. You can fire an artillery bomb. I can be in Canton, Ohio, at my residence, and at my girlfriend's residence in Massillon. You could fire that far with artillery, but I wasn't in the artillery, so I didn't have to do that. But I was chosen for the machine gun section because I was single. And if you were married and had children, they treated you differently than a single man. I got the good gun was the machine gun, and that was right on the front lines. So you were in the most hazardous condition.
And what was your job in that unit?
In that unit, I was a machine gunner, and what my job was is to protect the advancing troops that was going towards the enemy, and I had to fire over their heads with a machine gun, because a machine gun fired in bursts of 6, da 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 da, just like that, and 6 rounds went out, and the 6th round was a tracer bullet. So if it was nighttime, you could see where your shell was gone, where you were firing, that it was going in the right direction. And so that was kind of a pretty sight, actually, to see where your bullets was gone. 5 rounds just were normal, but the 6th round was a tracer bullet. Every 6th round, and you went brrr, and that 6 shells was fired just like that. You fired with your forefinger and your thumb. That was your two fingers that you were using. You just touch the trigger and go brrr, like 6 rounds would go out, just like that. And the 6th round was a tracer bullet. That means you could see where it was gone, so you knew whether your shell was gone in the right place or not.
And where did you learn how to fire the machine gun? Do you know where you were at?
You know, that's a good question you're asking there, because I was never trained to fire a machine gun. They said, this is your weapon, and I had to, use my weapon. I knew about the machine. I could take a machine gun apart and put it back together again. I had to be able to do that blindfolded. They required that you not see where the different parts of the gun was, so you'd have to feel for them, and then you'd have to be able to take a gun apart and put it back together again. But there wasn't that many parts to it anyway, so it wasn't really difficult.
So did you learn after they sent you to your first base after basic training? Is that?
I didn't learn that in basic training. I learned it the hard way.
Well, where did you go after basic training?
After basic training, I went to, that was Camp Blanding, Florida, where I had my basic training. And then along the way, it's just when I traveled, we would periodically have to do certain things the way the Army taught you to do them.
Do you remember the first time you picked up a machine gun?
I don't remember when I first picked up a machine gun. But machine gun was my principal weapon. I knew the machine gun. That was my weapon in the war.
Did you get good at taking it apart and put it back together?
Oh, yeah, I could do that.
Could you do it today?
No.
So how did you train? Because you don't get right close to your target, correct? Is there a specific distance that you should be?
Well, with a machine gun, the machine gun, when the bullet comes out, it didn't go straight like that, like you might think it would. It went up like in a hill. It went up that way, and then it come down this way. So you had to judge the distance where you're firing. And since it fired in two bursts of 6, you just press those two, your finger and your thumb together, and 6 rounds went up, just like brrr, just like that. 6 rounds went up. The last round was a tracer bullet. So you knew where your weapon was firing.
How much ammunition did you carry?
You know, I didn't really carry the ammunition. The ammunition was available right there, and whoever brought it up, I had it, all the ammunition I needed to fire my gun. And like I said originally, I had to fire over my troops' heads. When my troops got so far up to the enemy, why, I had to stop firing because I would hit my own men rather than the enemy. So I had to stop firing.
And did you do this as a line of men? Were there like a group of you, 6 or 8 or 10
No,
machine
just
gunners?
me. Just me
Just
on a
you?
machine gun.
There weren't any other machine gunners
No.
spotted
No
anywhere?
other. We only had one machine gun. And if you burned up a barrel, the reason, if you fired more than 6 rounds, you would burn up your barrel. Your barrel would get red hot, and it would bend, and you couldn't use it anymore. And you couldn't get another one because we were in combat. So you were very careful that you didn't burn out a barrel. And the only way you'd burn it out is if you fired more than 6 rounds at a time. That's why you fired in bursts of 6.
So there was one machine gunner per unit?
So many. There wasn't another machine gun where I was. I had the only machine gun.
And what was your unit?
My unit?
Yeah.
Well, 3rd Battalion, 92nd Artillery is what I went by. I was
And
in
how
the
many
3rd.
men were in that group?
7 men. 7 men was in was using the same weapon. We had to go in different times, you know. You had so many times on the machine gun, and then you'd get relieved. Because after a while, you couldn't keep firing all the time, you know. So you had to rotate.
So how many men were you covering that were going ahead?
7 men, 7 of us was like I was, a machine gunner.
But when you were out there on the front line, having the rest of the troops advance, how many men were advancing?
You know, I don't know, but there was quite a few going forward all the time. They were the riflemen. They were called riflemen, and see, I was called a machine gunner, and they were called riflemen because we had to give them cover until they got so close to the enemy that you couldn't fire the machine gun anymore, or you'd hit your own men.
And how did you know where to shoot? How did you know where the enemy was?
Well, we knew where the enemy was because we were where the enemy were, but they were just ahead of us. You know, they were like over here, and we were back here, and I would fire the machine gun with my 2 fingers. I go brrr, brrr. I'd keep that up and till the enemy had to keep down, so our rifleman was up there and able to advance against the enemy.
Did you have a plan every morning? Like, what was the routine? Did you have different plans every day Did that lieutenant or someone come to you and say?
Different every day.
Yeah.
Every day was different. You never knew that day what that day was going to bring to you until you was involved with it. And like the one day, the bad, I call it the bad day, is that I was with the enemy, and well, how was that? I was firing the machine gun. I don't remember exactly how that was anymore. But I was there firing the machine gun at the enemy, and I had to quit firing because we got too close.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to stop firing.
Did you do it at night anytime?
Pardon?
Did you fire at night?
Yeah, because we could see the tracer bullet at night.
But did you know where the enemy was that night?
Yeah, we fired. It didn't make any difference whether night or day. I mean, we had to fire when they told us to fire, and that was on a regular basis. You know, you just fired until you come too close to the enemy, and then you had to stop.
So after Florida, can you tell me where you went until you went overseas? What were your bases?
In Florida?
Yeah.
When I was in Florida, why we after basic training, why we moved a little bit different at different times, depending on what the location was and so forth. But that we were going closer to the, you know, like I got it when I was in Hawaii. That was a real good time because I could go on pass and so forth, and that's when most guys got a tattoo on their arm. I almost got one, and I never got one because I couldn't get what I wanted. I just wanted a little thing, and I was going to have it tattooed up here on my chest, and I couldn't find the right thing, so I never got it. So what I did was I took a picture with an Hawaiian girl, and that satisfied me, and I sent the picture home then, and that, you know, it fulfilled what I was doing.
Yeah. And was Hawaii the next stop before you went overseas to Okinawa?
No, Hawaii. Then I went to Saipan.
Okay.
We did a little bit at a time. First Hawaii, then Saipan, then Okinawa, then Korea.
Okay.
Korea was the last stop. There was no war going on anymore because we dropped the atomic bomb and the war was over.
And what did you do in Saipan?
On Saipan, why that's when I heard that President Roosevelt died, and Truman took his place and became president. And there was no change in what I did. I did the same, whether Truman was president or Roosevelt was president, didn't make any difference.
And did you have any job in Saipan, or were you just stopping over?
They always used me kind of to do run the mimeograph machine. You know what a mimeograph machine is? I had to run that periodically, and wherever they needed someone, that I fulfilled the need.
But did the Army have a role there in Saipan?
Have a what?
What was the Army doing in Saipan? What was the U.S. Army doing in Saipan?
The U.S. Army in Saipan was, well, I was the U.S. Army, and they just used me to run a mimeograph machine, office equipment. I was usually used for that purpose. when we were rotating around. And
But was that just a stop over until you got to Okinawa?
yes.
And now you got there on a Navy ship?
Yeah, well, I was on a lot of different ships.
Okay. Can you tell me about any of them?
Well, mostly that was used to transport me and the other troops where we were supposed to go, and then we'd have to leave the ship. We'd crawl down a rope ladder with all of our equipment, and that was a hard job, you know. In fact, the one I was climbing down was one of the guys fell. He couldn't hold on anymore, and he fell. You know, you had to climb on a rope, and you had all your equipment and so forth. So it was quite a job, but I was used to it, and I didn't have any problems with it.
Do you remember what kind of equipment you had?
Mainly it was transporting our weapon and the ammunition that we used to fire the weapon.
Did you take a change of clothing?
Yeah, I remember the first bath I took. There was a big shell hole and it filled with water, and I took a bath in that water, and there were a woman, and she looked like an elderly woman, and with her younger daughter, and I was nude and taken. I didn't. That was on the front lines, and here these two civilians were coming down where I was, and they passed me right on by. And I remember the woman said something to her daughter, and her daughter turned away because I was nude, you know, and she didn't look at me. And but the mother kept looking. I never forget that. That was kind of comical.
And were you the only soldier there?
I was the only soldier taking a bath, yeah. And you know, I don't know why I was the only one there. I don't remember why. Usually you weren't alone, you were with somebody. But I was alone. And I probably went off to take a shower in the mud hole, if you want to call it a shower, you know. I had to take it in a mud hole. We didn't have any facilities for showering or anything like that.
Now, was that in Okinawa?
That was on Okinawa. The 21 days I was in combat, I lived out in the open. I mean, the only protection I had was a foxhole. If they were bombing us pretty heavy, and I remember being in this foxhole, and my steel helmet was on. You know, you have a helmet liner, then a steel helmet, and I had that on my head, and I was pressing against the side of the foxhole. I was pressing so hard it left an indentation where I was pressing, because I was always protecting my head because I didn't want to get hit in the head. And so I just protected that all the time. I didn't want to get hit in the head.
So after you left Saipan, did the ship take you to Okinawa?
Yes.
And what was that like? Was that more somber, or did people know where they were going? Was anybody afraid when you left there to go to Okinawa because you knew what you were getting into?
I can only speak for myself. I don't know if anyone else was afraid, but I was never felt fear, and I never felt fear. I just did what I had to do.
Now, before the ship landed, could you hear the gunfire on the?
Oh yeah. Yeah, they could only fire so long, and then they had to quit. And then we got off the ship, and then we were on the land, and then we just took over the area, and we kept advancing as much as we could
And
to
that
get
was
towards the enemy.
and that was where your fellow soldier fell when he was getting on a landing craft?
Pardon me?
Is that when the other soldier fell when he was getting off the ship?
Oh, no, that was on the ship. He was climbing down the side of the ship, and he lost his grip on the rope, and he fell, but it wasn't that far where he got hurt.
Did he fall onto a landing ship?
Into a little boat
LST.
down below. See, we were transported from the big ship to the little LST, they called it.
How many people were on the LST?
Maybe like 7 people.
And how close did you get to shore?
We got till the water came up to my knee, and I would be able to walk the rest of the way. But we got off the little LST and got on land then. And we were on our own then, and once we got on land, we were on our own.
Did you take fire when you got off the LST?
No, I think that I got off the LST and I wasn't being fired on then. I don't remember being fired on.
And then your group of 7 or so went ahead and dug in at that time, or did you know where you were going once you got on the beach?
I never knew where I was going. When you were on the land, you were on your own.
You didn't go as a unit?
No.
With a leader?
I remember what I remember is we had maybe 7 men was on the machine gun. And we set up our machine gun, and then, of course, during the night you would rotate. You were on so many hours on the machine gun, and then you were relieved, and another guy took your place. There were 7 men all together, and then they could rotate. So everyone wasn't on the gun at the same time,
And when you were relieved from your duty to go back, did you go to sleep right then, or did you go to eat, or what was your routine?
Well, when you wanted to eat, the way you ate, you reached back in your back and you pulled out a can of spaghetti and meatballs. So you would take those, and you had a little can opener about that big, and it was on a chain right on my belt. And I would take that and open the can and eat spaghetti and meatballs with a fork. I had a fork, and it was in my mess kit.
Okay. So what did your mess kit contain?
It contained the utensils that you used to eat with.
Was it a dish? Did you have a...
Kind of a little dish that's easy to carry. And
so you kept that on you at all time?
I don't know whether it was all the time. In fact, I'm trying to think right now. That was kind of an immaterial thing that you didn't pay any attention to.
So you just ate whenever you were hungry?
Whenever there was no meal time. So each guy's on his own, If I was hungry, I'd reach back, take a can of spaghetti and meatballs or whatever it was, and open the can. I had this little can opener. I don't know whether you ever saw one, but it was a nicest can opener, sharp as could be. You could open your can real easily. And
so that was in your backpack?
Yes.
How big was a backpack you carried?
I'm not even sure it was a backpack. So sometimes it could have been a handkerchief where I had stuff in.
And did you go have a place where you could replenish your stores, your food?
They usually had a team of someone bringing food up all the time because you had to eat, you know. So someone was doing that other than the regular troops. They were bringing it up, the food, and they'd leave it there and go back wherever they came from. That's all I remember about that. You always had plenty of food to eat. You never went hungry.
Okay, and did you have a blanket with you at this time?
Yeah, usually you, well, not with me at that time. I mean, we just had a place, maybe we set something down, and then when you needed it, you went and got it.
Because you didn't have a place to eat, you didn't have a place to go to the bathroom, you didn't have a place to sleep, so you just did all that wherever.
No, and it was raining all the time. I remember one time, the only thing that was above water my feet was up above water, my head was above water, the rest of my body was all below water, and I remember of just trying to keep as comfortable as possible, which is almost impossible.
So you were in a foxhole that now was a pool of water.
You wasn't always in a foxhole, but when it came time it was dark out and you were going to go to sleep and you were not on guard duty. See, they rotated guard duty. Periodically, maybe every 3 or 4 hours, you would be on guard. You'd have to go and take over the guard duty's job. And then you were relieved from that after maybe 3 or 4 hours, and then you could go to sleep or do whatever you could do to be comfortable.
Did you take any reading material?
No, you couldn't read.
Nobody read?
You couldn't read because there wasn't time to be involved in reading a book or something.
Did you meet and discuss tactics with any of the other members, any of the other soldiers?
To discuss what?
Tactics, just what your plan was, what worked.
Oh, we didn't have any plans. We just did what we had to do when the time came. You did it.
Did you have a lieutenant or someone who was leading you?
Oh yeah, there was always a relief for you were on guard duty so often, and then someone would relieve you. The next guy would relieve you. Then he'd be on guard duty, and you could go back, go to bed or whatever you had to do.
Who was in charge of assigning that? Was there someone who was in charge of that?
No,
you just decided among yourself?
You knew the guy. You knew the guy by heart. You know, you never get closer to someone that when you're in combat. Why, you know, this guy, you're protecting him too.
So, do you know how many miles you traveled? That you walked from when you landed?
How many miles I traveled?
Yeah, from when you landed in Okinawa till you went to the enemy and pushed the
from
enemy
one
back.
end of the island to the other. Yeah. If we'd have went any further, I'd have been in the Pacific Ocean. but the Japanese actually drowned rather than surrender. They'd go in the water.
So what was the fighting like? Was it barren or was it very grassy and the caves? How did you fight the enemy, I guess?
You didn't want to fight the enemy. You didn't go out of your way to fight the enemy, but the enemy was there, and you had to either shoot him or you got shot.
Did you have any surrender?
Towards the end of the war, I did. Yeah, well, there was a guy, I don't even like to say it, but we had a guy with us on our side that we came to this guy that was, he was injured. He was laying nude in a cave. And we came across him, and this here guy I didn't like, he was an American soldier, but I didn't like him because he was ruthless. We came to this guy that was already wounded. He was a Japanese, and he was nude, didn't have any clothes on, and he was, I don't know where he was wounded, but he was wounded badly, and he was going to probably die anyway. And we were deciding, what to do with him. So if we carried him back, we'd have to have something to carry him in, and to carry him to safety where he could be treated by a doctor. And so we're debating what should we do with him. How can we carry him back? And this guy said, "Well, I know what I'll do with him," and he took his gun and shot him. So we didn't have to be concerned about what to do with him anymore. But that's murder. That guy committed murder, and nobody knows about it unless we who were there would tell them about it. An authority that would take action to get that guy, and he would have to explain why he shot the person he shouldn't have killed him. That's murder, and even in time of war. You're not supposed to murder somebody.
Yeah, people don't understand how hard of a time that is. Those are tough decisions. So, were there civilians on the island while you were fighting?
Just those two that I told you about, but how they ever were on the front lines, you got me, I don't know. But it was an old, she looked like an old woman to me, but the young girl was with her. And all I remember is kind of laughable because I was nude and in the water, bathing. I was bathing. I was able to take a bath, on the front lines.
Was that your only bath?
That was the only one I had the 21 days I was on. You wouldn't want to be around me.
But you were probably all in the same situation, right? All of the other soldiers were.
Well, it's hard to explain what you do in times of an emergency. Why you do whatever you have to do to stay alive and keep going.
Now, did you have toilet paper?
Toilet paper? Oh yeah, they gave you toilet paper. You got that with your sea rations.
And where did you get water?
We had our canteens. I had 2 canteens. Both of them had water in it.
And did you fill them up from the supply, or did you get it from the ground?
Well, all I can remember is I didn't drink a lot. I drank as least as possible, and I didn't really need a lot of water. But there's guys that did, uh, and you usually had 2 canteens instead of one. So I had plenty of water all the time, and if you didn't have water, you could take some out of a mud hole and strain it if you wanted to, if you had time, and just get the water part of it and leave the mud there. You did whatever you had to do to stay alive, and you didn't have any protection. The big guns were firing you. The artillery was 7 miles behind the front lines. The mortars were right in between the big artillery and the machine gun. And then the machine gun was next, and then the rifleman was next.
And then when the riflemen moved ahead, would everybody move up?
Yep. We'd follow them. Whenever they were able to move, the main thing they were trying to do is take more land. We wanted to take the land where the Japanese were, keep pushing them back, and that's what we did.
And so you were successful in going all the way across the island?
Yes, and I came from one end, and I was where you couldn't go any further. The Pacific Ocean was next. You had to get in the water, or you would stay on the land.
And did you feel like you were done then? Like I've reached the other
We
side?
were done. We were done. The enemy, we had the enemy pushed. Some of them drowned in the Pacific Ocean. I saw them.
How many of the enemy do you think you saw?
That I shot?
Well, no, that you saw, like that you saw.
Oh, that I saw. I don't know. Quite a few.
Like hundreds or dozens, like that you could see retreating.
I can remember seeing people in the Pacific Ocean, and they were drowning. Some of the Japanese just went in the water to drown. They knew they were going to drown. I mean, they knew they were going to, drown. Yeah. Yeah, that's the way it was. The hardest thing for a soldier is not then, it's afterward. It's when you're in a safe place and you can stop and think. The rest of it, you weren't really, it wasn't you, it wasn't you, it was somebody else.
It was the person they trained you to be. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's the hardest part about combat is it's like you're not human anymore. I mean, I can't describe it. That just seemed to be the way it was. And you had to do the best you could.
So how long were you still on Okinawa once that mission was completed?
Well, we pushed I call it literally, we pushed the Japanese into the ocean, they drowned. They didn't have any more land to go on. It was water next.
And how long were you still stationed there before they transferred you?
We knew that the battle was over. We knew the battle was over. We weren't even trying to to do anything anymore. The battle was over. The Battle of Okinawa was over.
Well, how long were you there waiting for them to come and get you?
We were automatically relieved by another battalion. And the battalion was coming up to where we were to take our place, and then we were able to go back to the rest area.
Okay, and where was the rest area?
The rest area was in a place that was comparatively safe. Not that it was safe, but it was comparatively safe. So we was able to eat out in the open, and if you had to go to the bathroom, they had a string of toilets. I mean, it was a string of toilets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Maybe 10 toilets, and they were on a thing that you could move.
So they were individual toilets?
Yes.
So you could have some privacy?
Yeah, very little privacy, but yes.
Otherwise, you just went out in the jungle or found a place to go?
If you had to go, you had to go. That's just the way it was. Oh, I don't want to.
Sure. How about you?
No, okay. So, and sleeping, you just slept, you just found a place to lay down and...
Don't remind me of that. I mean, to sleep in the holes, there were foxholes, but they were full of water because it was raining all the time. You couldn't keep dry. I remember this one place in particular. I remember because I remember my rear was under the water. My feet, I kept them dry as could be, and my head, of course, was out of the water. But the rest of me was in the water because the foxhole was filled with water, So it was terrible. It was inhuman. But you got used to being inhuman. So you were inhuman just like anybody might be.
Did you have soap?
Yep.
They provided you with soap?
It's an odd thing, but yes, I had soap. That's when I took a bath, I had soap to bathe with.
Did you have a toothbrush or comb or any other?
I don't remember a comb because I don't remember combing my hair. I don't remember having a comb even. I had a toothbrush. I don't know. I think it was in my thermos, or my canteen was.
Now, were you able to write letters when you were on Okinawa?
No, I never wrote a letter. I didn't write to my mom. In fact, she was probably worried but I said in one of my letters after I was in a safe area, I said that I just came out with 21 days of combat, and I'm out in the open now, and I'm free, and I'll be able to write you more frequently.
Did you lose any friends there?
I never saw Don Wechter and Jim Malloy again, so I don't know whether they were No, they had to be living, because I remember when we came home from the Army, I remember going bowling with them. So they were okay. I think one guy was wounded, but that was the worst he had. He was still living.
Was the medical care pretty good?
Well, I think I told you about the soldier that I helped carry. Maybe I didn't. Yeah, when I got up to the top of the hill finally, why I didn't get hit by a shell, I don't know, because steel was flying, and little pieces of steel. When a grenade went off, or you know what a grenade looks like? It's got all these little things, and they break apart, and all of them go scattered like that there. And then if a stray one hits you, why you're wounded. But why I got up this hill? It's Hill 153. I still remember the number of it. It was Hill 153, and we had to take this hill, and it was real steep. We had to use ropes to get up so high, and then we could walk because it wasn't as steep anymore. So we walked the rest of the way. But the enemy was up above, and they were firing down on us. Why I never got hit, I don't know, because little fragments of steel were flying, and it could have hit me or anybody else that was around. But I never got a scratch. Someone was protecting me.
But you were saying that you helped a wounded soldier?
Oh, yes. When we got to the top, there was a soldier. Oh, the poor guy. His skull was fractured. I saw it. And his brains were hanging out of the fracture. And we had to carry him back. So there was 3 guys there already there, and they saw me. I finally got up the hill, and I just got to the top when they said, "Hey, we need another guy." So 4 guys to carry, 2 on the back and 2 on the front, and we carried this wounded guy back to a safe area where we could let him. And then I left, and I don't know where I went after that. I don't remember. But I was up at the top of the hill, and that's when when I got to the top, they snagged me right away because I was already there. Say, "Hey, we need another guy to help carry this guy back." So I did that, and then I don't know what I did after that.
So someone had gone ahead and put a rope up so the other soldiers could follow the rope.
They put it so far, and then you get up to that point, and then you were okay. Then the hill wasn't as steep anymore, so you could walk the rest of the way yourself, Or I shouldn't say walk, but that's what it felt like.
So how many hills did you take? Do you know?
2.
2?
Hill 153, and I forget the number of the other one. That it had a number too, but the 153 was the main hill, and that's the one that I had to go under heavy fire. I don't know how I got up. I got up to the top without getting hit with any fragments of steel. I don't know how I did it. Someone was protecting me.
And what would your job be once you got up to the top of the hill?
What was the job I had to do is I was just trying to save my life. I was trying to stay alive.
But were you supposed to provide cover once you got up to the top, or what would your job be?
When I got to the top of the hill, Well, I told you what happened. This wounded guy, they needed another guy to help carry him back to a safe area, and that's what I did. Then after that, I don't remember what I did.
Was the safe area back down the hill?
No, I didn't go down. I was already up. We took the land where we moved the Japanese back out of there, and we finally took the hill. And that's what our object was that day. It was 2 o'clock in the morning when we started out, and I could just follow I couldn't see the guy ahead of me, and I just had to follow he was making, using his feet to move forward, and I followed the noise, but I couldn't see him. So, and if I lost him, I'd be going the wrong way, So I had to keep him and he had to keep the guy next to him until we got up the hill.
Now, were those riflemen or were those other machine gunnists or
The guys ahead of me were riflemen. The guy was there was 7 machine gunners in our squad of machine gun. There was, including me, there was 7 of us. So we would rotate on the 30 caliber water cooled machine gun.
Okay, so was it just you that you were the one machine gunner with the riflemen that were going up the hill?
With the seven other men. We all used the same machine gun.
Okay, that's a lot of workout for one gun.
Well, we kept it going, but if you fire more than 6 rounds, you burn the barrel. And if you burned the barrel on the gun, you couldn't replace it. So you'd lose a gun, an important gun. So you had to be very careful that you never ruined the barrel.
Now, was Hill 153, where was that in your time on Okinawa? Was that at the beginning, the middle, the end?
That was towards the end of the war. The whole war was over. But they dropped the atomic bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The war was over. Hey, hallelujah, I'm home.
Was there any other fighting on the island after that?
No, that was it. That was the last of the fight. I was in the tail end of the war. Fortunately, and we didn't have to worry about the war anymore because they dropped the atomic bombs and the war was over. Hallelujah!
Now, were there any caves there? Did you guys have to go into caves to clean them out, or was that the riflemen?
Then, you mean, at that time? The war was over. We didn't have to do anything. The war was over.
But on your trek from one side to the other, did any of them have to do that when you first got there?
Did
Did
what?
they have to go into caves? Weren't there caves on Okinawa?
Yeah, a lot of caves, yeah. A lot of burial tombs. In fact, we were in their hallowed ground. They called it hallowed ground. Because they were fighting in hallowed ground. They never did that before. They wouldn't go on hallowed ground. Holy ground, I guess it was. But the Japanese... The Japanese, they weren't going to give up regardless. They'd fight to the last man.
Did you see any religious artifacts?
Artifacts?
Any religious or spiritual artifacts there? You said that was hallowed ground.
That was towards the end of the war, and we didn't have time if I saw a guy with a wristwatch, that was value. To us, that was a token of our, I don't know what it was, what you'd call that, where the more souvenirs we could get, the better off. You know, we were, he had got some good souvenirs, you know.
What souvenirs did you have?
What did I have? I had a few. I still got them, I think. I got an opium pipe. I know that. In the secretary in there, I have an opium pipe. You know, they're a long pipe, and they smoke opium out of them.
And where did you get that at?
I don't remember, but I got it along the way there. I got it somewhere. I don't remember where. It was an opium pipe. What are some of the others?
Isn't there a doll?
Huh?
Isn't there a doll?
Did you have a doll?
Wasn't there a China or a Japanese doll or something?
Oh, well, that I bought that.
You had a belt buckle.
I got that in Hawaii.
What about the belt buckle?
I still got that.
Where did you get that at?
No, this
Where did you
this
get the
here.
belt buckle?
I think that Stephanie got this for me.
Not this one. Don't you have a Japanese belt buckle?
You remember that when I was a kid? When you were a kid?
You had a belt buckle that you got in the war.
Yeah, I forget what happened to that. I don't remember.
How did you get that?
How did I get it? Probably from a dead I remember of there was 3 Japanese that got away after the war was over. There's 3 Japanese that got away, and 2 of them we shot. I say we, our team of guys, shot them, and one of them got away. And the one that got away during the course of the night, I used to take off my dog tags and lay them down beside me because they would hurt my chest when I go to sleep. And I put those dog tags beside me. And here, the next morning, I woke up and my dog tags were gone. Say, who took my dog tags? And of course, nobody took them. And the Japanese that got away, of the 3, 2 of them were killed, you know, and then one of them got away. And he's the guy that was up where I was, and he saw my dog tag, so he put them on. He was going to get through our lines by posing as me. And so the next morning they called me and said, they want you up at personnel. Personnel was the main office, if you want to call it an office. And I said, well, what the devil would they want me for? You know. But anyway, I went up and he said, are you Van Dress? And I said, yeah. That's my name. Said, well, we shot a guy last night that was coming through the lines, and he had your dog tags. We were going to report you missing in action, you know. And he had my dog tags, so he gave them back to me, so I got my dog tags back. And then he said, well, what we really called you for is our company clerk had to go to the hospital, and we need a company clerk, and we see that you fit all the requirements of a company clerk, so they want you as a company clerk now. And I said, oh, great. I didn't want to leave my men that I was with because during war you become closely attached to, it's like a brother. And that's, I said, oh, great. So I took my dog tags and put them back on, and I became the company clerk. And I was really glad because I was able to write home to Mom and say, stop worrying about me because I don't have to go in battle anymore. I'm company clerk for our. So I wrote that home to my mom. So anyway, that's how it was.
But how did you get your buckle, your belt buckle?
Not this.
Right. How did you get the belt buckle you brought back?
We took it off that that one dead Jap that got away.
That took your
I
dog
can
tags?
remember we ran down there. Joe was his name. I can remember his name was Joe. And Joe and I ran down there, and he was pulling on one end of the belt, and I was pulling on the other, and this guy's body was going back and forth, back and forth. It's not really funny, but that's the way it was. And I don't know, you get used to even the worst stuff.
That's how you deal with it and survive day to day.
It's like when it's over, you know, it didn't affect me till I came back home, and that was a year later. That was over a year later. And I never had what they call it, LST.
PTSD.
Yeah.
TSD.
Whatever they call it, that was unheard of then when I came out of the Army. They didn't know what that was. But I wasn't affected until I came home. When I came home and I went to bed, after about three or four nights at home, I woke up and I was screaming. I woke up screaming. And I wasn't dreaming anything. I don't know what that was, but it never happened to me to that degree again, but I had what was called LSD or whatever they call it.
PTSD. Yeah. Post-traumatic stress.
Yeah, post-traumatic stress disorder. Yeah.
So now, were there also bugs on the island?
Who?
Like mosquitoes and bugs?
Pests? Oh, yeah. You had to contend with that. That was minor.
Did you have to take medication for mosquitoes? Or
No.
malaria? No.
No.
The Albutrin or Albine tablets? You didn't have to take any tablets?
Well, I'll tell you a secret that I never told when I was in the Army, but I didn't used to take those Ativan tablets. I took them till I found out they don't cure malaria. They just prevent it from coming out so they don't take you out of action. And when I found that out, I stopped taking Ativan. I just would say, like I took them, act like I swallowed, but after the person left, I'd throw the pill away. That's what I did. I don't know what anyone else did.
Did you see any of the mosquitoes?
Did I see any?
Yeah, did you see are they big? Were the
I wasn't bothered that much by mosquitoes. They were there, but I wasn't. You know, we had a lot of repellent. You put that repellent on you, and a mosquito would dive down, but it would go away right away. But I would hear them coming. Brew.
Now, what was invasion money?
Invasion money, yeah, I think I still got some invasion money upstairs in my drawer. I just kept different types of money that I'd get, just as a souvenir.
Did you use it?
It's up in my drawer. I think if I look for it, I could find it.
Did you use it in country at all, or on the
No,
island?
no, I never used it.
Did they have their own dollar or their own currency on the island, or?
Well, they had what's called, I forget what they called it, but that's what it was. It was in invasion money. I mean, it wasn't real money.
Now, you had mentioned something, I think, in your book about the Japanese using Navy troops.
Japanese using Navy suits.
Navy troops, like their Navy. Were the Japanese using the Navy to do some of their fighting?
Oh, yeah, they were using they were using the Navy, yeah. Yeah, because I had a belt that I kept. I used to wear it when you guys were little. Do you remember it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I wore it until it's worn out. I threw it away.
So how did you get from Okinawa to, then you went to Korea?
Yeah. Have ship. Board ship. Didn't take long to get from Okinawa to Korea.
And what were you doing in Korea?
I was a company clerk then. I became a company clerk, and I used to have to make the payrolls and do all the administration for Company D, 17th Infantry, 7th Division.
Did you like doing that kind of work?
Oh, that's what I did in civilian life. In fact, I did it. I was the. What did you call me when I was in
Reserves,
where was it?
Reserves.
Army Reserve. Yeah, I was
You were the company clerk. Is that your
yeah, it was kind of an
administrator?
administrative job. I became the officer in charge of the Department of Agriculture's. It was a part of the Department of Agriculture. I was a civilian then. I wasn't in the Army. I opened the food stamp program, which was a government program.
So how long were you in Korea?
Over a year.
Okay. And what was your unit doing there?
What was our unit doing?
Yeah, what was the overall army? What was the army doing there?
We were occupying that part of the Korea. We took Korea over from the Japanese after the war was over, and they had signs up, "Welcome Americans." I mean, America is beautiful, all that good stuff. And that's when I went out on pass one night before the MPs were ever there. We were already there. We took Elizabeth. I forget the name, but we were already there. But the next day the MPs came, and we got back to our office we already opened an office. We were sent there to open an office. That's what we did. And we opened the office, and we went out on pass that first night, and there was no MPs or anything there yet. But the next day, their MPs came, but this Latson K. Sailor was the guy that he didn't want to come with us. He was afraid to go out with us. And so the next day we told him what fun we had. So he said, well, I'll come with you this time. But this time the MPs were there and they caught us. And they said, what do you guys do out here? And we thought we were in trouble, but that was all that was. He took our name, rank, and serial number, and that was it. And so anyway, we went back to the barracks, and we thought it was all over. But after our main company joined us, we were sent there to open the office, and we opened it. Then they came, and that's when we thought, and this guy that MP that caught us that night, why, he came in our office, and we thought, oh my God, we're in trouble now, because this was the same guy, the same MP, and the guy came and talked to our personnel man and then left, and we thought, uh-oh, we're in trouble now. And we weren't in trouble. He didn't even mention us. And we thought, oh, we're free. and we were. Nothing ever happened about that.
So you had gone out to a local establishment the first night?
Yeah.
With the local people?
A local people. In fact, the guy could speak American. And he wore a suit just like Americans wore. And he wanted to talk. When he found out I was a machine gunner during the war, he just wanted to talk about the machine gun, about the weapon. And I keep changing the subject. And finally he caught on and said, well, okay. So he called some of the girls that they had. And the one girl asked me to dance, and I was surprised. And I said, okay. So I danced with her, and she could follow me real well. And the first song they played was, I'll be down to get you in a taxi, honey, better be ready about 8:30. Now, dearie, don't be late. When they get there, when the band starts playing, and he kept playing that song, and we danced to it. She followed me real nice, and we had fun. And now we drank some sake.
Did you was that your first time you had drank that?
Yes.
Okay. Did you like it?
Yeah, it was good.
Have you drank it since?
Yeah.
Okay.
In fact, Chris got a bottle of it one night. He brought it home to me. But I think we still got it. I don't think I ever opened it yet. And it's sake.
So you were excited about going back, but they wouldn't let you? The military police wouldn't let you go back?
Go back where?
To that establishment.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, that was off limits. They had a big sign then put it up there that said off limits, for American personnel. So we couldn't go back.
Were there any other places that were off limits?
Yeah, a lot of different places they marked off limits. They did that usually. First thing they would do is places they didn't want the Americans to go, they would put off limit.
Do you know what the criteria for that was, or why?
I think it was they didn't want you to be involved with their women or whatever.
Or tell any secrets about your machine guns?
No, the machine guns weren't
They don't
even
care.
mentioned anymore. We didn't need any machine guns. You know, machine guns were quick and fast.
So did you do anything else there fun after that first night?
No, I didn't have any fun anymore.
Then it was all work?
Pardon?
And then it was all work after that?
Not all work, but yes, I did my share of work in the Army. I was in the personnel all that time. I was the company clerk. You know what a company clerk does? Takes care of all the clerical work.
Mm-hmm.
People get paid. Without the company clerk, they wouldn't get paid. And nobody was paid since I was on the island of Saipan. I was never received a pay. They gave me a big check when finally they paid me.
After you got to Korea?
Yes, after Korea.
And then where do you cash that check?
Down at the post office. It was right under our personnel office. It was on the first floor. I was up on the third floor.
And then do you have to carry that money, or could you transfer some to a bank
No,
account?
I could send
or?
it home.
Okay.
I always sent mine home. I didn't need any money.
Did you get a cashier's check or something to send home, or how did you send that
Like
home?
a money order. Just write a regular money order and send it home, and then my mom would cash it and put it in my bank account. I had a bank account at home. She'd put all my stuff that I'd send her, she'd put it in the bank account. When I came home, I was wealthy.
Did your brothers come home before you?
Yes, every one of them.
Do you know
Troy
where they
was the
were?
first one in. He was in the Army for 5 years. He might as well have stayed in for 20. But he didn't. He got out right away. And then Troy was the first, John was the first one. No, it was Carl. Oh, John, Carl, and Troy, yeah. Troy was the first one. He was the youngest. And then John was next, and then Carl. And they were all in the Army. And then I went in, of course. At 19, I was in.
Mhm. Do you know what your brothers did? What their role was or job?
Troy was a teletype operator during the war. He wasn't in any war at all. He was the first one in, and he was never in a battle. I was the last one in, and I was probably the only one that was in a battle. I know my mom was worried about me a lot because of where I was all the time.
So when you got to Korea, did you get a lot of back mail?
Oh, geez, a lot of back mail. Took me a while to answer it all.
Who all would write to you?
My brother John, my brother Carl, my brother Troy, they all wrote, but not often. I may have only received 1 or 2 letters from them all the while they were in the service. And then, of course, my mom is the one I wrote to all the time, every chance I could. That's why during when I was 21 days in combat, I couldn't write any letters. So she didn't receive a letter for a long time. She was worried. So that's why I took the job as company clerk. I didn't really want to be the company clerk, but I could do the job, you know, because I could type. In fact, you know, when I left the Army, how many words a minute I typed? 70 words. I was really fast on a typewriter. Now I don't even think I could type anymore. But I have a couple typewriters.
Now, you had mentioned something about a Japanese translator. Was there a translator on?
Oh, we had 3 translators, but one was real good. And he became a good friend of mine. And during the war, we were enemies. But he was a close friend of mine. And he lived in one of the rooms up where our office was. And those 3 guys lived up there. And he used to go run errands for me in downtown Cheongju. I was in Cheongju, Korea. So he would go in town and he'd buy what I wanted.
Now, was he a POW? Had he been captured by the Americans, or how did he become a translator?
No, he was just hired by the U.S. Army to interpret it for when an officer needed an interpreter to go out with him. Why, he would have to. He was hired to do that, to go out and translate. He could talk. He could speak Japanese, Korean, and American. He could 3 languages he could speak.
Had he lived in Korea, or was he
No,
Japanese?
he lived in our office.
Well, I mean, prior to that, was he actually a Japanese military, or did he?
No, he was in the Japanese service, army, but not then. He was a civilian. But he had formerly been in the army.
Did you use a lot of local people, or?
Well, we used those 3 guys, and they used to go out with the officers to interpret for them. They didn't go out with me because I wasn't in that capacity. So does anyone have any questions they want to ask me?
I know, that's why I wasn't sure. You were grinning. I wasn't sure if. How did you? Did your tour just end? Did your military service just end, or did they tell you you could get out when you left Korea?
Yeah, get out of here. Yeah.
Was your duty just up? Had you just fulfilled your contract?
No, I didn't have any contracts that I know of.
So you didn't have a requirement to serve so many years when you went in?
What was that?
You didn't have a requirement to serve a specific number of years, or just until they
Oh,
needed?
no, I didn't volunteer for anything. They kept me as long as they wanted me, and then they let me go. After I served no useful purpose anymore, why, they got rid of me. Get out of here.
How was that ship? You took a ship home?
Oh, yeah, the Sea Star.
Yeah.
I still remember the name.
How was that?
We hit rough water. I thought, oh my God, I thought we were over the hump, but we wasn't. We hit rough water, and most everyone was seasick. Boy, I never that sick before. And they finally, someone got some soda crackers, and they threw them up. I was up in one of the high bunks, and they threw it up to me, and I caught it. And I had one soda cracker and I think I was about a whole a week that it seemed like a week. I don't know how long it was, but anyway, I just put my tongue on it, and finally I ate the whole cracker, and then I felt better. But the seasick was gone.
Now, was that a Navy ship or was it just a civilian transport ship?
No, it was the Navy.
Where did you dock when you came in? Your like port of entry?
You mean into Korea?
No, into the United States.
Oh, in the United States. San Francisco, I think.
Is that where you were released from military service?
Yeah.
Or
No, I wasn't released yet. In fact, they owed me, I never had a furlough all the while I was in the Army. And they had to pay me for all the time I was in the Army. So I was home for a couple months before I was discharged. So I was already I was still in the Army while I was home.
how did you get from San Francisco home?
By different trains. I'd get on a train and take me so far, and then I'd get on another one. And
How was that experience going across country?
well, it was real good for me because I was sitting, the train was so crowded that I was sitting where a woman and two or three children were, and some guy came down and said, "Do you mind changing places with? This is my wife, and I'd like to sit here where you are if I could." And he said, "Well, there's a pretty girl there sitting there." And I looked and I said, "Well, sure, I'll change." So I did. And you know, something odd about that is that girl made me promise that I would write to her. And I did. When I got home, I did write to her. And she said, address the envelope a certain way because my dad, she called him my dad. If he sees it, he won't give it to me. He'll tear it up. And so I wrote to her, but she never answered me. So I figured that that's what happened. But I never did know for sure. There was something mysterious about that woman. And anyway, I thought of it every once in a while because it just occurred to me. But anyway, that's what happened, and that's a mystery. I don't know what happened to her because she made me promise that I would write to her. So maybe I think it was her husband, not her father. but I don't know for sure. But I never saw her again.
Did your family know that you were on your way home?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
In fact, I was supposed to arrive a day earlier, and I didn't, so I think I called Mom on the phone and told her I'd be a day late. But anyway, Carl and Chet Chinder was a next door neighbor, and my dad came and got me when I arrived on the train, and we all went home, and it was about 10 o'clock at night, and I hugged my mom for about a half an hour, about, I guess, just a while. We were so glad to see her.
A big party then, kind of, when you got home?
We had coffee and Yeah, we were there for a while just talking, and it was probably 11 o'clock at night when I went to bed that night. But then the next, that's when I had woke up screaming one night. About 3 days after I come home. I never thought of the war before, never thought of it. Never occurred to me. I never thought of the war. The whole year I was in Korea, I never once thought about the war. But soon as I came home, it was about 3 days, and I woke up screaming one night. Here, my mom came rushing in, and here my bed sheets were soaking wet, and my pajamas were soaking wet. I woke up, and that's the effect. And why it happened a year later after the war was over, I'll never know. But then periodically after that, I remember that's when I met Caroline. I had a date with my wife, Caroline. And that was the first time I was out with her. And here, that affected me that night. I remember I had a car then, and I drove the car. But I was with my friend Cliff Humphreys and his girlfriend. And I said, "Hey, Cliff, you got to drive. I don't feel like driving." And I had that occur again, that and here I didn't know it, but I had what's called
Post-traumatic stress.
post-traumatic stress disorder. And I didn't know I had that. All the while I was in Korea, I never once ever even thought of the war. And I didn't think of it till I come home, and I woke up that night screaming. And here after that, then it took me a long time before I then I went to college and everything, and
What did you study in college?
speech for radio announcing.
Did you ever do that as a
Oh,
job?
yeah, I was on WAND in Canton. They had a station called WAND. They still had WHBC, which they have now, but it was WAND then. It was another radio station. I remember that guy, when I came in to his office, I wore my wedding suit. I was wearing my wedding suit in there. When I had to have a suit on, and I had my wedding suit, was the cheapest suit I ever bought in my life, and usually I got a tailor-made suit, but this was just a regular-made suit, but it fit me like a glove, and looked good. I looked good in it, and so I wore that till it wore out, and but I was using that most of the time when I had to go for an interview. And then that's when I worked for WAND for just a very short time, and because they didn't want to pay anything. They didn't want to pay anything, You practically working for nothing.
Were you a radio announcer?
Yeah,
Did you do the news?
I said poetry on the air, a poem like Scratches by John V.A. Weaver. That's my favorite poem. It goes like this. I found a scar across my wrist today. I got it gathering apple blooms for you one breathless afternoon when spring was new and all the trees were wearing white for May. I had forgotten any scar was there. I had forgotten, too, the trifling pain quite paid for with a kiss. And then the rain, scattering transient diamonds in your hair. You thought you loved me then, do you remember? And I, for my part, I am sure, poured out brave words like grow and strengthen and endure. But that, of course, was May. This is November. Time will be dim that night. The blooms, your face, Even the scar will heal to a faint trace. I still remember that
That's
poem.
beautiful. Yeah, that's very nice. Yeah. So that was your role on the radio?
Yeah,
Was to share the
I
poetry?
used to recite poetry.
And what years were this?
Pardon?
What year was that?
Oh man, 100 years ago.
And that was right out of college?
I was in college
You were
when
in college.
when I said that.
Okay.
Yeah, I was in college when I said that.
And
I went to Kent.
Were you married, or you were married to your wife at that time?
I wasn't married
You were,
yet.
okay.
No, I met Caroline. My first date, I met Caroline, and I can remember it real plain because she was a typical woman. When I said, you want to go out next week again? You know, we went out that week. She said, oh, I don't know, call me. And I said, I don't do that. I don't call. And she said, I said, do you want to go out next? I kind of twisted her wrist a little bit. And she said, well, yes. So we've been going out ever since then after that. And that's what we ended up getting married.
How long before you got married?
Well, let me put it this way. We'd have got married a lot sooner than we did, but her mother didn't want her to marry me. She liked me, but she didn't want her daughter to marry me. So, but Carolyn was her own boss, and she was headstrong. She did what she wanted to do. So she never stopped going out with me, and we got married.
Where did you get married at?
St. John's. And I was Catholic and she was not. She was Protestant. However, after we were married about how many years?
I don't know.
You don't remember?
She was always Catholic.
Mark was first grade. She took RCIA.
She converted to Catholicism?
Oh, yes. Yeah,
raise
and
the
I never
children.
asked her to. I never once asked her to convert. I didn't even know she did, but she was taking lessons over here at St. John, and she finally became Catholic. And I never once said to become Catholic, but she did. I used to go to church every Sunday. I was what you might call a good Catholic. I believed in what I was doing.
Did she go with you?
Oh, yes, after she became Catholic. Our marriage worked out very well because she was her own boss, and but we were very close.
And what did you do for work?
I worked for the government all my life. The government was my father. I worked, well, I opened a food stamp program in 9 counties around here. I was the officer in charge. I had an office in Akron.
So you touched a lot of people that way.
Oh yeah, I was. Yeah, I lived a charmed life.
And then you had a number of children.
I'd say they were a number 15. 15 stands out in my mind. And Caroline never once complained about having children. We believed it was wrong, and she did too, to prevent from having children. And so that's why we had so many. I didn't ask for that many. In fact, I didn't want any. No, I'm just kidding. But I'm thankful for my life. I lived a charmed life. Never wounded in the war. Why, I don't know.
So you could have 15 children.
I guess, something like that. But my wife died several years ago. But I was fortunate to have Susie. We go out to dinner all the time. Every Friday we go out to dinner. And Susie's only, she's 60. I'm 96. But we have fun. I like her. She never got married. She was single all her life. She should be here today.
I know, I don't know where she is. She didn't text me back, so
Well, we were out Friday, yesterday.
maybe she felt like she would distract you.
Something
like that.
Was there anything else? Did you have any questions that you could think of that fit in there?
Oh, come on, one question.
I've been watching your family and some of the questions, and I've had even a better view than you have. I had the facial expressions and the love and the warmth going back and forth. This has been awesome, Ron.
Well, thank you.
No, thank you for your service, and thank you for sharing. This has just been wonderful. I had no idea where this was going.
Well, it took me 8 years to agree to write a book. My daughter Stephanie was after me for a long time to write about my experience. I said, hey, I've been all my life, I don't want to think about it or write about it. But she finally convinced me it would be a good thing, and I think it was. It kind of reminded me of things I shouldn't forget, I think. And I thank Stephanie for being after me all that time to write about it. And I'm glad I did. I'm glad I wrote it.
She's your wife's daughter. She stuck with it.
Yeah, she's determined, boy. When she gets something in her mind, she's going to do it.
Okay, Ron, you might want to explain your jacket.
Yeah.
My jacket.
The jacket that you have on. Yeah, what is that?
Oh, geez, I forgot. I got.
It's just part of you.
Oh, yeah. Well, it don't have all the ribbons and stuff on it. See, you should have all the ribbons that I had. I don't know what I did with the ribbons. I think I have them anymore.
I don't know.
But I have a
Maybe they're in the pocket. Look in the pocket.
I had it. No, there's
Is there
nothing.
anything in there?
Oh, there's a piece of paper in there.
What is that?
Oh my gosh.
I have no idea what that is.
I don't either. What the?
Maybe you wrote something about this. I
Huh.
didn't know it was in there.
I don't know what this.
Oh my goodness.
How long it-
Dearest Vicky,
Yeah, you gave this to me on one of my birthdays.
Happy
You gave this to me
birthday.
on one.
the enclosed combat infantryman's badge.
There must be a badge. Look in those pockets.
What'd you do with the badge?
Look in the pockets. Well, is that what's on the jacket? Maybe we put it on the jacket. What's the
No.
badge
That's
that's
a
on
unit.
the Gotta get in there. Look. Oh, yep. It is.
Is that? Oh
There you
my
go.
gosh, there's my combat infantry badge. See
There you
that?
go.
Yeah.
You know how much that's worth? $10 a month.
That's right.
I didn't know that was in there.
I didn't remember.
Oh, I don't think you should
I
leave
must
it
have put
in
that
there.
in there so that
If that went through the machine and everything. Yeah, well, that was, if you just have the badge, it's worth $5 a month. If you just have this rifle here. But if you have the wreath around it, it's worth $10 a month. You got to extra pay for that. But remember, that's in there.
Yeah, I will now. It's on video.
I'd take that out when
Yeah, I
Keep-
think it needs to be
keep
tried
it
too for the
separate.
jacket, yeah.
Really, that's supposed to be on the jacket, pinned to the jacket.
Any particular spot that's supposed to go? Where would you put it?
Over here, as I recall,
Okay.
Yeah. It's on your left side.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it goes above your ribbons, I believe. I was a Marine, but that's where I've seen them,
Okay.
above his ribbons.
But here's what the letter says. Happy birthday. The enclosed combat infantry badge is the most coveted badge in the Army infantry. It was awarded to me because of my participation in the battle with the enemy, the Japanese, on Okinawa in April of 1945. It was worth $10 extra each month on my paycheck. I would guess that $10 then would be equal to $100 now. You should attach this badge on the Eisenhower jacket above the left pocket.
Oh, there you
There you
go.
go. Okay.
When Simon studies the history of World War II in the Pacific Theater of Operation, he may be interested in viewing the actual jacket with badge his granddaddy wore with love, Dad. That's a good letter there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that must be why I put it. I
That-
probably put it in the pocket so I wouldn't.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't leave that. That should be in a separate
Yeah.
thing.
Well, we're gonna try to see if we can get the jacket in the museum, actually, so that we can have a display in there so anybody could come and see.
Yeah, well, you kept it in good shape
Mhm.
all those years.
Mhm.
I'm glad I gave it to you.
Mhm.
How long, do you remember what birthday? How long you've
I-
had it?
Is it dated? Is that letter dated? Let me see. Let's see if
Well,
it's got a date on it. Do you remember when it was?
Simon's
I would have been
24,
little.
so he was probably just a
Let's see.
baby. So
1998. He was a year old.
it's
Wow.
about 23 years.
I
ago.
wouldn't have remembered it was that long ago. Wow.
Yeah, you want to keep that letter.
Yeah, I want. That's why I'm putting it in the pocket, so I don't.
It might be a history object years from now.
Wow, it's 23.
It's already been, what, 70 some odd years?
Mhm. Mhm.
That's a long time.
Well, if you can find, I'll have to ask Chris if you have your ribbons for the jacket, because what we should do is put everything on the jacket.
Yeah, well, if I hit over 100 before God wants to take me.
I do have a question to ask you.
Okay.
So certainly combat and war are serious business and chaos, but we also know that in the military there's a good amount of downtime, not in combat, but going over on the boat, being in Korea. You remember any? Well, I know you remember Saki and dancing with some girl that followed your lead real well. But you remember any other good times with the buddies that are in the unit? Any stories like that? Because I don't know about you, but I remember a lot of funny things about. We meet every kind of person in the world in the military, don't you? They're not all from Canton area and stuff. We meet from New York and Alaska and all over. You remember any of the characters that you ran into?
Well, yeah, I remember. I can't think of their name right now.
How about Snake? I remember you talking about somebody named Snake.
Snake was the guy. he was a Mexican GI, and he was the first guy. He was supposed to guide me when we went into combat because he'd already been in Attu, Kwajalein, Leyte, and Okinawa. Those were 4 campaigns he was in. And he was in every one of them as a soldier. And he was the first guy that I was in a foxhole with when I was in combat. And then after that, I was mostly alone when I was in a foxhole. And so, what did you want to ask about it?
Well, no, just if you met any goofy characters or people that were different in the fun that you had. Did you play cards? Did you play?
Oh yeah, I played cards a lot.
Yeah.
When I worked in the office in Korea, we were able. Yeah, I played hearts. Hearts is my favorite game.
Oh.
Do you know what?
Oh yeah, it's pretty cutthroat.
Yeah, yeah. Queen of Spade was counted 13 points.
Yeah, the green weenie.
Yeah, I played that a lot in the Army. In fact, when I left the personnel office, I had a bankroll of money because it was actually a lot of money, and I left it on my desk, and I said, anyone here is welcome to any of this money that you can use. And I left it laying on my desk when I left the Army. Because I won a big pot of money. That's why I had so much money left over, you know. When I played hearts.
Yeah.
So, question back there?
I got a question. What was your reaction to the death of General Buckner?
What's that?
What was your reaction at the time of the death of General Buckner?
Community action?
General Buckner.
Do you know who General Buckner is?
Oh, certainly.
What was your reaction when you found out?
Oh, well, I was in a dangerous area right there when General Buckner come up with his Jeep, and I thought, he's in a Jeep. Why would he be in a Jeep? That stands out like a sore thumb. I mean, I couldn't understand why he came up in a Jeep. And I thought, well, you know, when I was in basic training, there's only 3 guys out of all the guys that were there that passed the tests of a driver's test. I was one of the guys, one of the 3 guys, and I could have been General Buckner's driver, you know. But I wouldn't have wanted to be out in the open where I was then and be driving General Buckner's Jeep. It would stand out. I couldn't understand why General Buckner drove his Jeep on the front lines, but he did. And then he got killed. I remember that. That's outstanding to me because I can remember where I was. 70 years later, I can remember where I was.
Ron, when you got out of combat and you were at a place where you could actually order food, what were you the hungriest for?
Well, you know, that's a good question, but to me, you know, I like good, you know, my favorite my favorite meal right now is a baked potato with butter on it, and a real thin steak. As thin as like paper almost.
Yeah.
And I like that a lot. So that's what I have. That's my favorite meal, I would say, right now, today.
But how about when you got out of the Army? What did you crave?
What did I crave? See, I was never a food lover too much. In fact, Susie kind of, well, he'd not really chew me out, but Susie would like it if I ate more. She loves food. She eats she eats it. Like when we were out Friday, she ordered a big meal. I couldn't even eat half of my fish. I like fish real well, but I can't eat the big fish they give you when you order fish in a restaurant. I can't eat it all.
I thought I remember you saying that you craved eggs.
Oh, that's my favorite. My favorite breakfast, if I ever eat at all, is breakfast, and it's an egg, only one egg, and Hungarian peppers fried just right, so it's a delicacy like, and I like that real well, and I can eat that. I eat that every morning for breakfast. I had that this morning for breakfast.
When you, to your question, I'm curious, like, was there something of grandma's or your mom's that you craved, that you missed of her cooking?
Well, I liked anything my mom made. I can eat anything my mom made. I even like, she made real good, it's the way she flavored food. Green, like dandelion, or she cooked dandelion. And there's a lot of iron in dandelion. It's good for you. And if someone asks me, what's my long life? What do I owe for my long life? I'd say it was my mother's cooking without leaving Caroline out, because Caroline patterned her cooking after my mom. My mom taught her how to cook. And she cooked that way, and I used to like what she made.
Did you eat anything in Korea of the local food?
I used to eat my regular, whatever they had to eat. I would eat most all foods.
Did you have any kimchi?
Any what?
Kimchi.
No,
Koreans eat fermented kimchi.
I don't remember eating anything like that. I didn't eat Korean food, actually. I ate mostly what the cook made over in Korea when I was in Korea.
What were your barracks like in Korea?
The barracks? I wouldn't call them barracks. I had like a twin bed. I slept on a twin bed.
But were you in the room with another 40 men, or?
No, just my best two buddies that when I was in the Army, we had a place that we slept. We all had our separate beds. I had a single bed that I slept on. Not a cot, it was a bed.
But it wasn't in a barracks?
No, not in a barracks. We had a private room.
Is that because of the job that you did?
Yeah, more or less. Yeah, because I worked in an office. I used to get up in the morning and wash and everything, and then go to my job. It's right on it was on the third floor of the building that I lived in. And I would get up in the morning, eat breakfast, and then go to my job, right? It was all in the same place. The post office and everything was right there. I was in the heart of where the activity was.
So different from sleeping in a foxhole to a
Oh,
few months
gee.
later having your own room.
All the difference in the world. I say, I forgot all about the fact I'm in the Army. We were kind of like private. It was private. We used to play cards, and I didn't mind it at all.
Did they have movies on base?
Pardon?
Did they have movies on base?
Yeah. I watched the occasional movie. Yeah. We had movies. Even aboard ship, we had movies in Hawaii and Saipan. I remember it was kind of limited in Saipan because we were getting in more dangerous water, closer to the enemy. And but it was fun in a way. I tried to enjoy whatever I was doing.
Now, when your ship got close to Okinawa, did you have gunships that were providing cover for your ship, or?
I think so, because there were other ships like surrounding our ship. So I think they were watching the troop ship. So if any enemies came, these battleships would take care of them and leave our ship alone. Because there was 3,000 troops on our ship.
Ron, I thought you remember when she had asked you earlier about caves and having to, I don't know, better term, clean out caves and stuff. Weren't there like people with flamethrowers or something like that on the island with you?
What kind of people?
A flamethrower?
Oh, a flamethrower.
Is that how you cleared the caves?
I saw the flamethrowers operate. What they did, we called the flamethrower up to the front lines when we had to take Japanese out of caves where they were hiding, and the flamethrowers would just direct their flame right into that hole where the Japanese got in their tunnel, and then they'd come out screaming because they were on fire, their uniforms and so forth, and they'd come out of their caves screaming, and they'd either get shot or they would, I don't know what would happen to them.
Now, from some of the things I've read, that the Japanese on Okinawa were malnourished. They hadn't had supplies of food and water and things like that. Were they? Did they look malnourished to you?
They looked like normal Japanese to me.
And they had supplies, and they had food.
They seemed to like their rice. I'd say they had food. Now, towards the end of the war, now it's very possible that they were running short on stuff. I don't really know.
I read that the Battle of Okinawa, when Ron was there were over 300 American or merchant ships surrounding the island of Okinawa. And there was a sea battle before he went. There was a sea battle, and we pushed them back, as I understand it. There was battleships, destroyers, troop ships, hundreds, maybe even thousands of LSTs and larger ships. There was just hundreds of ships surrounding that island, putting down fire and transportation, supplies, all kinds of things.
Ron, did you know anything about? Did anybody know anything about the atomic bomb before you had heard that it was dropped?
All I heard is when it went off, atomic bomb went off. Two of them went out. That's all I heard. You'd think I was close enough to be where they were, but I wasn't.
So there were no like rumors or conversations that the United States was working on a bomb that was pretty top secret, and you didn't really hear about it until after it went off?
I didn't hear about it until after Okinawa, yeah.
Were you happy? Were you glad when? I mean, do you remember feeling excited and glad that they let that bomb off, or how did you feel about it?
What's that?
When you heard that they had dropped a bomb,
Oh,
were you happy about that because you thought the war would be over? Were you worried about it? Do you remember how you felt?
I kind of dismissed it as whatever, I knew they did it, but I didn't think about it a whole lot.
How about when the war ended? I remember you telling a story about like people firing guns and you not liking
Oh,
it.
yeah, definitely. When they heard the war was over, why, I got done under my bunk because I was afraid to get hit by a strayed shell. After I come through a war and then I get hit when we're having fun, no, that would have been crazy. So I got under my bunk until they stopped shooting, and then I got up.
And weren't you like the last person to like go home? Didn't everybody else get to go home or something and you didn't?
Oh, that you're talking about when I had payroll. What happened there?
I thought you told me that everybody else got to go home and something got screwed up and you couldn't go home. You were delayed.
Yeah, something happened with the amount of money they were going to give me, and it wasn't right. And they said, "Oh, you can't go." You know what? I waited all this time and I can't go home. And I would have given $1,000 to let me go. But anyway, I couldn't go till my payroll was cleared out. And that was the next day. And then I just holding my breath that nothing else would keep me here. You waited all this time to go home, and then one day you don't want to wait. You want to go now. But that's the way it is in the Army. You can't go, boy, until they let you go. But even then, I wasn't discharged. I was home a couple months before I was discharged because they owed me all that time. I never had a furlough in my life in the Army. So they owed me a couple months time that I had accrued, that I had coming to me. So they had to keep me home. I was still home, but they wouldn't discharge me until 2 months was over. So anyway, I finally got discharged, and here I am today talking about it.
Right back there.
Yeah, it's a queer set of facts and figures. I thank God that for all he did for me.
Was there anything that you know that helped you with your post-traumatic stress?
My wife.
She understood and helped during that time?
Their mother. She was a wonderful person.
How many years were you married?
68.
Mm.
I've never met anybody married 68 years. That is awesome.
Mm.
I think the last one I was 62, so you're the record holder.
For years of marriage. Yeah.
That is wonderful. Congratulations.
Yeah, and you've left a legacy together with your children and grandchildren, and any great-grandchildren?
Oh,
I don't
yeah.
know. Yeah.
I
How
don't-
many?
I've lost
No,
count.
no
I don't
one.
know. I couldn't tell you. I'd have to count them up.
Mm.
How many great?
Well, my life has been full of various hazards and so forth, and yet here I am at the age of 96,
Mhm.
and I'm still talking about it.
Mhm.
96, 97, 89, 4 years, it'll be 100. I'll be 100 in 4 years if I live that long.
And we'll come back.
On your
We'll come back on your
Well,
100.
will you?
Okay, yes.
Give me that in writing.
I will.
I will.
It's recorded. It's
I
in front of
will.
witnesses. So
There is one question I got. Can you sing the Augie Dong song?
What's that, Zach?
The Augie Dong song. Can you sing the Augie Dong?
No, I'll let that up to you.
You know, Dad actually said about they would sing this same song in Korea, the Augie Dong, Augie Dong. And I'm in my truck driving, and they were doing some kind of commercial. It was veterans or something. And in the background, they had somebody singing the Augie Dong song.
and you won't share it with us?
I don't even know it.
Oh.
He just said that was a song that they would sing.
Okay.
And
I wonder if that's Augie Dong is Korean.
it is.
Yeah.
It definitely is. And I'll tell you why, because a buddy of mine who drove with me was in the Army stationed in Korea, and I brought that up, and he knew it. He knew what I was talking about.
What is it though? Is it
It's
like
It's a song that they sing.
a
I don't know
nursery
what.
rhyme of
You
some
got
sort
me.
of
I
that?
didn't get further than that, but I used to kid him all the time because he was not in combat. We were in Korea, and I said he'd go to the geisha house and hide under one of the girls' dresses. I'd kid him about that, and I'd have a whole story about that, and we'd talk about his time in the service, and it was sound like a lot of fun and games.
Probably was.
I had not heard that one.
The Augie Dong song?
No, I had not.
Look
heard
it
that.
up. You probably can find it on the internet.
Yeah, I'm sure. Now, was there a church? You're Catholic. Did you go to church when you were in the military?
I never missed Mass unless nothing I could do about it. The 21 days I was in combat, why, of course I didn't go to church.
They didn't have a field
We
service?
didn't have a church.
Okay.
But yes, I was pretty faithful to my belief, my religion.
The chaplains were pretty good?
Yeah, but I didn't see a whole lot of them, but they were there.
Hey, Ron, I wanted to ask you because she asked you a question about your access to like medical care. when you were in the service, and you had something wrong with your ear once that you had to have treated.
Yeah, when I was in the rest area, I had what was the ear? Did I say my ear?
Yeah.
Carbuncle or something.
Oh yeah, I had a carbuncle, and I had a terrible night that night to go to sleep because it was thumping, and I woke up next morning and I had a little pocket mirror, so I looked in that and here this big lump on my ear, I think it was. This ear here, I believe. And someone said, well, you better go see the medic. And I said, who are you talking about? You go see the doctor down there. I don't know we had a doctor. So I found out we had a doctor, so I went down there and sure enough, there was a tent there and his sign was out there, Dr. So-and-so. And so I couldn't knock on the door because it was a tent. So I just yelled and said, is the doctor in? And he said, who is it? And I said, I'm Corporal Van Dress. I got a lump on my ear. I don't know what it is. And he looked at it. He said, well, can you stand a little bit of pain? And before I could answer it, he had this knife. It curled like that. And he cut my ear. And oh my, the stuff that came out of my ear was terrible. Blood and pus and that type of thing. And he said, and then he squeezed it a little bit, and he said, "You'll be okay. It's okay now." And it was. I said, "Oh my, it feels good, because it was thumping. It hurt me terribly." And that was a big relief when he cut that open and let all that there pus and stuff out of my ear. But that was before I got into combat. That was in the rest area. You called that a rest area where I was. It's not really a rest area. You couldn't rest there. But I did have a tent, big for animal tent. And we ate under that if we wanted to. Like if it was raining, we could eat under and it wouldn't get our food all wet. So I was still in a rest area, so that was pretty good. But once you get on the front lines, you're in no rest area anymore. You're sleeping out wherever you can find a place to sleep. And right then, there was a lot of Japanese already had real perfect places to sleep because theirs was real deep and cut real nice. They had time to fix their foxholes. So I slept in an old Japanese foxhole.
So once you went forward, you just used
You just use their
foxholes.
foxholes. Yeah, I didn't have to dig a foxhole.
How long did it take you to dig a foxhole? Because that seems like a lot of work to me.
Oh, it is. It is. If you can keep from getting the fox, I never dug a foxhole because they had Japanese had foxhole. I used their old foxhole.
Was a shovel one of your pieces of equipment?
What equipment did I have but grenades? I had grenades that I had some grenades attached to my different belts that I had. And if I wanted a grenade, all I did is take it off and pull the pin out. And once you pull a pin out of a grenade, it's live. You got to hold the handle down. Once you let the handle go, that grenade is live, and you got about 6 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and that grenade's going to go off. And so I would hold the handle down till I'm about ready to throw it. When I'm ready to throw it, then I count maybe 1, 2, 3, 4. Then I'd throw it, and then 5, 6, and it's ready to go off.
How often did you throw a grenade?
As often as I could, and not go out to the enemy. If I hear the noise, if it's dark out and I can't see, if I heard a noise over there, I'd take my grenade and throw it over there and let it go off, so if anyone was over there, I don't have to worry about it. If no one's over there, why, I wasted a grenade. You didn't want to waste too many grenades because you didn't have that many.
Was there a time where you heard the Japanese? I thought there was one time you guys were close enough that you could hear them.
Oh, yeah, I could hear them talk.
They acted like they were going to charge, but then they didn't.
Yeah. This one Japanese, he came out in the open like he was going to come and you were actually going to have a bayonet fight. And because you can't fire your weapon because you might hit your own people. So you used your bayonet to fight. And I thought I was going to, I didn't want to do that. But fortunately, he ran out and then ran back right away. Oh, that's a relief. Yeah, that's crazy. War is crazy. Really is. You take a guy like me, 19 years old, give me a gun and say, go get him. Go get who? I was taught to take care of these people. You're supposed to be good and good Christian, take care of people. Then they give you all the weapons to kill people with. What are you supposed to do? What am I supposed to kill them, or am I supposed to protect them? But that's the crazy world we live in. I love you all until I hate you.
Any advice for future generations, for the current 19-year-olds that are out there?
Do the best you can. Whatever you're going to do the best you can. And then toss it up to posterity. You can't do anything about it. You got to play the game.
So after you came home and got married, where did you live first?
Where did I live?
With Carol? Carolyn, with your wife?
With you call her Karen?
Carolyn, yeah.
Caroline. Yeah.
Oh, Caroline.
Yeah, we got married, and I don't know how I was lucky enough to find her.
What about the 3 lost years? Because you told me about that last time we talked about it.
What's that?
You said that there were 3 lost years. 3 lost years, you said.
Well, I call them my lost years.
So what was that about?
That was solely about me.
And when did that happen? Right when you came out of the military? Or from the war?
Yeah, it was, I call it my bad years. I'm not proud of them. But I reformed because when I met Caroline, I said, that's it. I didn't have any bad years then. Yeah, you go through life and
And when did you end up in this home?
she can tell you better than me.
Well, I was born in this house, but they moved into this house the year before I was born, right?
Okay.
1967, did you move in here?
How old were you then?
I was born in 1967, but at the end of the year, actually, I think you moved in here in 1966, right?
I don't really
I'm pretty sure you
remember.
moved in here the
It's
year before I was born.
it's been years. I don't remember.
Well, how long did you live in Canton and on Oak Avenue?
8 years, I think.
And how many children did you have at that point?
Oh, probably 10.
So you needed a bigger place to put the kids?
Well, that's
or?
one reason I bought this house. You should have seen this house when I bought it. That floor in the kitchen is level now. You could put a level on and those bubbles would be in the right place. But boy, when I moved here, that floor must have gone this way. We had to push the 2x4s up, and I reinforced the basement. Put more 2x4s in down there. They're not 2x4s. They were 4x. They were bigger than that. And that floor is so even now that the bubble would be perfect. Because we evened the floors. That kitchen floor was terrible. It was like you were walking, you were going downhill. Yeah, this house was in sad shape. This house is probably, the next step would be to take a bulldozer and knock it down.
And why this house? Was it just?
Because they let it deteriorate to the extent where pretty soon it wouldn't be livable.
But why did you buy this house?
How many kids did I have at that time? That's why I bought the house.
Okay.
I think they have.
I needed a real big house, and I didn't have a fortune to pay for it.
Okay.
So what I did was buy this, and Carolyn was she wasn't an interior decorator, but she was good at that. She could put stuff down on paper, and like that. That's the way we did it. She would design this room like she wanted it, and then we'd build it.
Mm-hmm.
One room at a time we would work on until it's about like it is now, but it's still not done because I was gonna be up in the attic. I was gonna have my den up there where you open the door, you look through the door, and I was gonna have a secret compartment right there where I go like that, say, who is it out there? If it's not someone qualified, you're not allowed in here.
How many bedrooms are in this home?
There are, how many bedrooms are in this?
Right now, you mean? See, we changed it around.
There used to be 5, right? No.
There's my big bedroom where the bath is right off the bed. Were you up there? Well, I have a bedroom. Our bedroom was, we have a bedroom, and then right off the bedroom is a bathroom with a shower and everything. And Carolyn and I fixed it like we wanted it,
How many?
And then we had the other bedroom for the kids.
I think there's 4 now, but there used to be 5, 6 maybe. I have to remember.
See, we changed this.
Yeah.
We made a room where we wanted it, or where we take away if we didn't want it.
Mhm.
We made it like we wanted it.
Is that the dining room in there?
So this
Is that
has
where you-
all changed dramatically.
Where'd you
This
guys
was our
eat?
dining room. The TV used to sit over there.
Oh,
There
okay.
used to be a couch here. That fireplace they uncovered years later. When I was growing up, there was a whole brick fireplace in there.
Uh-huh.
And then when they took the brick out, there's a original fireplace.
See, I got the fireplace, so there's cold air that feeds the flame, and you don't use the hot air in the room. It saves you heating the hot air. The fireplace did.
Yeah.
So that this fireplace is built right. That fireplace in the kitchen isn't taking the cold air out. It isn't heating the cold air.
So this warms up nice.
But this one is.
Yeah.
So I didn't find out about that I should have had that one also bringing in cold air from the outside, not using the hot air from the inside. But those are the things you learn as you go ahead, and we practically rebuilt this house from the ground up.
Yeah, it's totally like my memories of the house, like there used to be a bathroom over there. There still is a bathroom there, but you came at it through here. These rooms, this wasn't here. I'm trying to remember how it went. This was a separate room, but it was different. Because I do remember that's how we sat. The TV was there. And then I just remember, this was the living room, the fancy room, and it still is. They call it the billiard room now because there's a pool table in there. But when I was growing up, there was all kinds of fancy furniture in there. It was antiques and, all kinds of stuff. And there were two kitchens. So there still is, again, I guess, because that's the kitchen. But that there was like the maid's quarters or something, I think, in the original days. And that was our playroom. That's what I remember. So that's all different now. I don't even know.
Nice size yard for all the
Yeah.
kids and everything.
Yeah, it's all different.
Yeah, their room still isn't finished. Carolyn and I were going to work on that next, but she left me. And I don't mean voluntarily.
There are a lot of changes over the years. There was no pond out front. They put the pond.
We were a real team.
Sounds like it. Sounds like it. Did you also garden and grow your own food?
Oh, yes, we did all that stuff.
Okay.
All the good stuff.
Yeah.
I reformed.
That's good. That's good. That is good. Some people never do, so it's good that you did.
Well, the bartender knew that when I came in, he'd pour me a half a glass of whiskey and a bottle of beer. He knew that's what I drank. I didn't hardly eat anything. But I forgot all my troubles and it all came out nice. Someone was looking out after me.
Yep.
I still think he or she still is. Because I feel great.
You still doing push-ups?
If I live 4 more years, I'll be 100.
Yep, I like that. Yeah, I know. I also attend the World War II Roundtable, World War II Korea Gulf War Roundtable, and I spoke to the assistant or secretary Thursday, and they would like him to come in and talk if they.
Oh.
It probably won't be till after the first of the year because I think they don't have one in December, and they have people lined up for the next one. So.
Well, so this is what I haven't talked to him about, but
Oh, he doesn't know about this.
no, I
then.
really didn't get a chance. I was just starting to before you got here. But so what I would like to see happen is I would like to for you to have an opportunity to like do sort of a Q&A kind of thing, like we did here, but where people could come in and ask you some questions. and you could have your book and you could sign your book. People could buy copies if they want, and you could talk about it a little bit. And so I was talking to Debbie about the Maps Museum because they do stuff like this. They even have a bookstore there. So my thought is that maybe we could find a date or time. It would be kind of neat if it was close to Veterans Day, which I think is in November. But where you could go and we could do that. So, you know, what we're doing now right here, this is for this National Archive. You know, this is going to be a video placed in for education and all that. But it would also be really cool if you would have the opportunity to actually have your book and people could ask you questions about World War II, just general people from the public or whatever. And you could tell them a little bit about your experiences and actually sign copies of your book if they want to purchase them, they can, that kind of thing. So, so if you're open to doing that, Debbie said they do this stuff all the time in this museum, and I could set that up for you. And you
Well, you know how I feel about publicity. I'm not really seeking that.
Yeah, but what I was thinking is it would be a chance for you to really, it's not so much for you, it's for other people to learn. Because this is
I
a
understand.
museum, this wouldn't be like going out to, you know, for you to be on a book tour or anything. This would just be a museum kind of style thing. So my thought was, I could just picture this being really fun. Like we have friends that are, well, even a couple of people that showed up today to listen because they're military, you know, that kind of thing. People that want to know a little bit about the history of World War II. So
And
it's really up to you, but I'm just, the opportunity is there because we've been talking and, you know, they do this sort of thing at this museum, you know.
I want you to sign a book for me.
And
Right.
you want your book. And I'm sure there's others like that that are in the same.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
So I'll end this now, I think, if and we'll still talk, but I just want to thank you for your service and thank you for sharing so others can learn, because it's very important. You know, the news and our history books now do not educate our kids or our adults in a way that they should. They cherry pick stuff, or they just politically say things, or they just have their own agendas. And at MAPS and the National Archives, you know, they want people to understand what really happened and what it was really like. And so many people just don't get that I'm in the Army or I'm a Marine, and what their job is to actually kill people, and that's how the war is won, and that they have to take a hill. There's things you have to do because it's just not personalized, and they just disinfect it, I guess, so people don't really understand what's going on. So it's really important for you to share your stories, and that these are real people going out there making horrible situations, making very tough decisions, so everyone else can go to the grocery store or, you know, just live a safe, comfortable life. They just don't understand that. So it's really important for you to share that. And there's people who want to hear it. There's people who want to hear it. So just thank you. Thank you for being willing to share your story, and you know, allowing us to be the conduit kind of to help educate our new citizens, our new veteran, our new military personnel, you know, just our kids, just to educate our kids. So thank you for that. It's really important.
You know, Ron, I shared with you that both of my parents were in the Army, and I never got to hear anything from them, very little. And sitting here today, you made my parents closer to me in some way, and that meant a lot to me. So I want you to know that the things that you share, no one takes it as being a bragger from you. People take it as part of history of our wonderful country and what you fabulous men and women did to the call that our country needed at that time, both in Europe and in the Pacific. And people don't take this as you being a bragger. People take this as you being an American that's sharing an American story. And I gotta tell you, buddy, you impacted me regarding how my parents and